Welcome to Inside the Wires, hands down, the best podcast in all of racket sports. Listener discretion may be advised for a younger audience.
Start recording so we get this up. This is the good stuff. I mean, that something like that should be broadcast to the world.
But there's Marek, again, full disclosure, there's a lot of times we talk to guests before we go on air, and we can never release any of the stuff that gets said before we go on air. Often they'll go, "Are we recording?" We go, no. And then they'll go, whoosh, out comes everything. And then the recording comes and it's all buttoned up and nice. And, but we're not going to give you that courtesy. We're going to get straight into it, my friend. Get you in and out of here on a Sunday evening.
There we go. All right. Ben, you want to open up? Oh,
no, you go ahead. You've been killing it the last few weeks.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So by the way, what we'll do is we'll when we wrap up, we'll say, hey, thanks for being on, whatever, and then stick around for a second, and then we'll actually stop recording, and then we can talk for a second after that.
Sounds good. Perfect.
Oh, perfect. Excellent. All right, Miguel.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let me get my game face on. All right, here we go.
It's just as ugly as his regular face, but
I'm just looking at the questions on my other thing. All right, here we go. All right, we're back with Inside the Wires. I'm Noah, that's Ben, and today on the show we're happy to have Marek Czerwinski from Chicago, a pro here, a high-level player, just off a tournament in Detroit with the legendary Jared Palmer. And today we're going to talk all about paddle, some tips, and what it's like playing with a player like Jared. So here we go. Welcome back to Inside the Wires. And today we are very happy to have Marek Czerwinski on the podcast. He is, I think, straight off the road coming back from Detroit. Who can talk to us about Detroit and what happened up there. And maybe most people don't know. I think Marek is from the area where the tournament was this weekend. So we can talk a little about that as well. So without further ado, Marek, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me back on. I appreciate it. Yeah, this is great. And yeah, literally just made it back home about an hour ago. So quick trip.
Nice. And so he says hello to the family and hops right on the podcast. Don't you? You better like that.
attaboy.
So Marek, for people who don't know, you grew up in Birmingham, which is kind of where the what is, right?
I did, yeah. So I grew up in Birmingham, Michigan, and so I freshman year of high school was in Seaholm High School, so that's nearby there. So I have a couple friends who are members at one of the clubs there, and I've just grown to know at least a few of the people that are around there, and played there a few times. So have just got to know more and more people at the clubs. So obviously feel definitely very much at home because it is, and yeah, it's always actually really comfortable to go ahead and play that at that site. So
is family up there, or is the family's moved away, not there anymore?
My parents are still there. So,
Gotcha.
So actually this round, I finally got, I have my oldest who's 7, almost 8. And I finally decided, hey, we'll bring him along for a tournament finally. And,
cool.
Paddle hut and, spend some time with the grandparents. And I trust he wasn't going to do anything too crazy. So he was good. He loved it.
He enjoyed it. He had a good time.
He loved it.
It's Oliver, right? Your oldest?
William.
All
Yes.
right.
Oliver's son then.
Oliver's number 3.
Okay. I knew we both had an Oliver somewhere in there. So Czerwinski is a common Michigan name?
Yes. Yeah. So it gets confusing. So, if you say Marek Czerwinski, it's you got to distinguish. Like you got to maybe throw a middle name in there, like speaking of my middle name. Then they'll know.
Okay. All right. Well, we won't talk tournaments for too long. I texted you a week ago, and in all my brains right now, I can't remember what tournament last week was. What was it?
Long Island.
Long Island. And I'm just looking through the draw and I see Czerwinski Palmer. And I go, who the bloody hell is Palmer that Marek's playing with? So I click on the link. I was like, no shit, Jared Palmer. And I text you, I go, this is a good team that I didn't see coming. And then you guys teamed up again this week. How'd that come around?
Yeah, he actually reached out to me before Long Island and just tried to see if I was available to go ahead and play that tournament. And fortunately it was advertised as a one-day tournament, and that was the only way I could go ahead and convince my wife that was a good idea, to play 2 weekends in a row. And then gave it a shot. And the funny thing with that too is we arrived there and my wife ends up checking out the draw and she's like, the final says it's on Sunday. I was like, no, there's no chance. No, it's a one-day tournament. Like, no, it definitely says on Sunday. I was like, we'll have it. I was like, we have to get there first. I was like, so don't even worry. But yeah, so he ended up reaching out and I don't know how many tournaments he's going to be able to play this season. So I was like, hey, this is just a fun chance to go ahead and play with Jared. And obviously we've known each other for quite some time now and played each other plenty of times. Haven't been able to actually play with him. So I was like, hey, let's give it a shot. And that was before deciding on Detroit. So yeah, it worked out well.
Well, you guys actually have one of my favorite matches ever playing against each other.
Yeah.
Was it the quarters?
Quarters of nationals.
You and Gamby, right?
No, we had a battle. Yeah. The match points both directions and saved match points. And yeah, that was a fun one. That one. Wish I was on
was it Jared who was he the one that you know what I'm going to ask, that the shot, it's the famous shot, like hit the net.
Yeah.
And he managed to still like get it back. You explain it. I've watched it like 9 times and still don't understand how he did it.
I ended up hitting a cut shot. At that time, I also didn't even have much in the spin department. So I wasn't hitting a ton of cut shots. And I ended up hitting like a perfect cut shot in the middle of, a tough time in the match, hit a perfect one, exactly the way I wanted to. It's spinning back in the net. I'm doing a walk-off over there. I'm ready, like high-fiving myself, homeschool high five. And then I hear some noise behind me and I hear, Gambino's feet or something, like struggling for the win. I'm like, what the heck's going on? I turn around, the point's still going. I'm so confused. And I just ended up playing the rest of the point, which I think we ended up losing. And I'm like, what the heck was that? And have no idea how it happened. But I know that Jared ended up getting a ball off the net, which is totally legal. If a ball bounces and goes back into the net, you can play off the net, which he did try to do also in Detroit as well. We had Johan do it against us, and he tried to play it off the net, and it didn't work as well. Didn't come off of it the way mine did apparently. But yeah, I guess that's one of those times where I don't even know what the rule is until it finally happens, and then you ask that question, and we're like, shoot, I guess that's legal.
Well, the rule is right until it bounces back down onto the court. The ball's in play.
On the court, it's in play.
Yeah.
How he knew to do that, I don't know. And I wish he did.
He's played a little bit of racket sports over the years. And it turns out, going back to Detroit now, that he's a brave man too. He took a swing at Johan.
Yeah. He took cuts. He was feeling it. I think he was hitting his return or drives even bigger than me at times for sure. He started to feel good. So he was kind of laughing about it with me. He's just like, man, I'm feeling it right now. I'm like, great, you keep swinging, because I'm like, you're crushing that thing. And obviously with Johan's hands up at net, I mean, no matter how hard you hit it, his hands are almost always there. So he's almost always ready for it. And so the fact that he got Johan pinned a couple times was pretty amazing,
Yeah. Hey, so, for the benefit of maybe club players, I mean, obviously, you guys had a lot of firepower going, especially if Jared's really bringing it. What do you think? Like, what do you makes a great partnership? Like, if you're thinking, who are you compatible with? I mean, let's get somebody. Obviously, you're known for having a forehand, a lot of firepower. Does it make sense? Do you look for somebody else that's got that? Do you look for somebody that may be complementary, that, I don't know, does something different, a different set of skills, or what's important, do you think? And again, to be applicable to maybe club players as they're looking to team up with people.
Yeah, I would say on average, I think kind of the general consensus on that is like, hey, if you got who's a little bit more aggressive, who takes a little bit more risk, it's probably wise to find someone who's a little bit more of a complement to that, who's going to be a little bit safer, a little bit more consistent, more of the steady player. And that I'd say overall for most club players, I'd say is probably the way to go if you can. The I guess opposing view of that to a certain degree at least is if you have someone who is completely on the defensive side, super steady and doesn't have any offense, from the net or from the baseline in there, and then you have someone who's bringing all the offense, particularly from the baseline. Well, then all of a sudden, all the reset shots keep going to someone who doesn't have as much of the offense, and all of a sudden, that guy who has the offense doesn't really see a ball for the whole time while they're at the baseline, right? So I think it's important also that hey, they can be this steady, but I think they ought to have some sort of offense. That's why I even encourage anyone who I've ever taught, in paddle. I'm like, hey, even, they're like, hey, I like to just keep that ball in play. And then that's not my game to really be aggressive. I don't really, I'm always going to go ahead and, try to push. Hey, you got to have some sort of offense. It might not be a huge drive, but hey, if you can even have like some sort of off speed, something, that's going to set up your partner. That's going to help them as well. So that would be my general idea. The only combo I think is not very good is two guys who are extremely risky and super aggressive that are going to play a lot of quick points, because the problem is you might get a couple quick games going your way, but in paddle, usually it's maybe a couple quick points going your way, but then a lot going against you that way. So it's not like tennis that you're going to get a big group of points that are going your way with two aggressive players.
So you touched on all like the different playing aspects, right? One player being aggressive, one player being a little more passive. My first thought when I saw you and Jared teamed up, what had nothing to do with the playing. It was like personalities. Yeah. I saw him, and having, spoken to Jared a little bit here on this show, I was like, oh, this is a great partner for Marek. Like someone who's, he's not, if you take a couple of balls and maybe you're missing a little bit to start with, he's not going to, throw his arms up or roll his eyes. He's a pretty positive dude. He's even keel. I was like, I text you guys. I was like, this is an awesome team I didn't see coming. And truly for me, it was just the personalities I thought were really good.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun actually. And he was totally encouraging the entire time. So it was actually funny because he was, normally I'm probably more than most. I try to be really encouraging in there. And if a partner's taking cuts, I'm usually trying to say, hey, that's a great cut. No worries. Whatever. It was funny. I usually, if I'm going to talk negative at all, it's on myself. So there's sometimes the negative came out to myself, and Jared's like, hey, positive.
Really?
Dude, sorry. I mean, great job, Marek, Funny.
So, something that I thought was interesting, I noticed it maybe more so this morning when watching you guys in your match today. It's kind of interesting, like the size of a lot of not everybody, but the majority of the top players. I mean, they're physically big, right? And I think probably bigger than most men. And I don't know much about tennis, as anybody who's listened knows, but is tennis the same way?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I would say tennis it's trending even more so that way. Definitely the size matters for sure in the sense of serves. Obviously in paddle, that's not going to be a big advantage there. But I think why you see it in paddle too, being to a certain degree an advantage is just you look at just the range of what you can cover up at net with return of serve. You can go ahead and handle it, cut off a huge chunk of the court with just closing yourself in there. And then you just don't have to go as far back to recover for an overhead. So then you're ready for the next drive. So, looking at it as an example, that's one thing that makes actually playing against Johan and Steven very tough is they do a fantastic job of they don't give you a whole lot of room to really attack their feet very often, and if you get it, you got to take that chance. But sometimes it's, when it finally happens, sometimes if you weren't like totally ready for it, then you just missed your opportunity, or you're taking it, when you weren't totally ready, and you might make an error on it, right? But yeah, that's the thing. That's kind of the pressure it applies on you, is you just feel like, shoot, there's not much I can do to kind of get people out of position. So in paddle, that's the way it helps a whole lot.
Yeah, I was surprised the first time I met like Sven Burish. He was so much bigger than I thought Sven was going to be when I first met him. I was like, he's a big dude.
Yeah, the wingspan, right? And it's just like cover like 80% of the net, within just a step and a reach,
Yeah.
That goes along. And I mean, I think the game's only getting deeper and stronger. Everyone's abilities are getting, even stronger. So it's not only that you can reach it, but then they have the hands to then execute the shot, right? So it's like not only getting it back, but they may even be able to do something off of it, which is crazy, and maybe able to hit a perfect drop shot while on the full stretch or something, or stuff the ball behind you. And it's like, shoot, now what do? I got this little window to hit the ball into.
Yeah. So are you and Jared going to be playing some more, or is he kind of holed up back in Sweden now?
Yeah, no, I think he's heading back to Sweden, probably to reassess over there. I'm sure he's going to think about all the matches, replay them in his mind. We haven't talked about it all. We haven't discussed it all as far as any future tournaments in there. Cause I think right now he is traveling a little bit out East. And he's working actually.
Oh, there you go. I've got poor connection.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, he's working with someone out East in tennis out there. And so he's out there a little bit more often, and so he's able to go ahead and play a few tournaments this year. I just don't know when he's back again, and if we're gonna have a chance to partner up again. But either way, it was a whole lot of fun getting to play these two tournaments together, and hopefully we get another chance. It'd be great.
Did he actually show up with a paddle, or did he go through your bag, or like how did that work out? Like I know he showed up to a PFP event, didn't even have a paddle one time.
Yeah. I think he rotated a few different ones in there. Whereas for this tournament, in Detroit, he was fiddling around with a couple of different weights of the Xenon with the Vortex, and it was kind of funny. I think the first match, he played one set with one of them, played another set with another one, and this one felt fantastic on returns. I'm gonna stick with this one. I'm like, great, awesome. I'm like, I don't know what you're doing. I'm like, it feels good, great. So he loved it. So he was hitting great, and because he was crushing drives the whole rest of the day.
That's how good he is. He can switch paddles mid-match, something completely different, and be like, okay, this one feels better.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Well, you touched on a little bit, Marek, but what do you talk about a little bit about the state of the game? I mean, where do you see things at? I mean, where are they now versus, when you started versus now? What do you think kind of been the biggest changes in the game?
Yeah, I'd say so. When I started, I felt like there was only a couple players that were really getting after it with spins. That was one thing for sure. You had Johan, that was definitely the one who was using spins the most. You had Juan that was doing quite a bit of spin. You may have had like Steve DeRose using a little bit in there. You could have maybe a few guys in there, but overall it wasn't like I wouldn't call it like a standard thing that everyone in the top part of the game had to do. You didn't have any sidearm serving, and I'd say that's two of the bigger things that have kind of changed since then. I feel like almost everyone now has some sort of spin offense, whether it's, heavy rollers or cut drop shots, slashes that go deep, almost everyone has something in there, that can possibly, win a point pretty quickly on you. The underhand or sidearm serve, or whatever you want to call it, that's taken over quite a bit. There's quite a few players that are using it, and not only like using it, I think at the beginning, even looking at like, how Johan and Steven kind of used to hit at the beginning, it wasn't with near as much spin. I think the only guys that were hitting it more heavy was Will Colmar was one. And then Adam Morgan was hitting it with a little bit of spin for sure. I think everyone's gotten it a little bit heavier now, and it's like feeling confident enough to make that thing jump at you. And again, going back to what we're saying, as far as guys who are, bigger size up there, covering more of the net, it's like you got a ball that's staying low, jumping at you. And you got about 2 feet of room to hit that drive into, to get that safely by the net person. So that's not easy. So it's a tough little dynamic, and then just the fact that you have to keep growing your game. I think everyone is trying to figure out, hey, what's the next thing we can kind of add in the game to go ahead and kind of give ourselves an advantage in there. Now with everyone kind of getting the spin shots in their game, now everyone's also used to defending against it. Really tough to win those points completely off of it unless you hit it excellent. But it becomes, I think, a little bit more of like, all right, it's like not just one spin shot? Can you have combos of spin shots? Can you mix in kind of bursts, of hey, when I start playing a little more steady, and then like I use Johan as a good example of this because I kind of notice it more in his game, but kind of like bursts of like, all right, I may just be steady, and then all of a sudden kind of come with a combo of like 5 or 6 spin shots in a row after not seeing that spin for a little while, right? And sometimes that's actually more effective as opposed to if you just spin all the time. Guys are pretty used to it now, how to defend against that.
So those of us, real quick, while we're talking about it, those of us that don't get to play Johan kind of on a weekly basis, when you watch him play, when he does those spins, he's not looking to win the point outright. He wants to cause chaos, right? He wants to get you guys moving all over the place. That's what he's aiming to do, right? He's not hitting one kill shot. It's multiple shots to just cause you guys running all over the place.
Yeah, typically it's not one kill shot. Every once in a while it is, and I don't know if even when it happens, I don't know if that's even the intent on that one shot. I think many times it's just he tends to thrive quite well in chaos. When the ball's flying around and people are switching and there's transitions going on, and when he's doing that, it's creating a lot of that, right? So it kind of creates a scenario that usually plays to his advantage in there. And to Stevens, right? It's like they both thrive in it pretty well, and so I'd say again, it's kind of the combo of it, right? So it's sort of create a little chaos and then improvise from there, and it's like, hey, if it gets defended well, diffused well, you go ahead. Spin shots didn't get the opportunity wanted, then reset and kind of go back to maybe more steady play and more traditional play, and then wait for another opportunity to kind of come with a burst of a few shots like that again.
Do you think if you and Jared had more tournaments under you and you'd played even 2 or 3 seasons together, that I was thinking about this, that you guys match up really well with Johan and Steven as far as you're quite calm, you both volley really well, you can bring some really solid offense. I think I think that you guys match up really well.
I felt like we should have done a whole lot better score-wise than what we did. It actually felt like a pretty good match.
It was 0-0, but it was so much closer than it really looked. No, I'm just fucking with you. Keep going.
Yeah, it was, it felt close. It felt pretty good. We had awesome points. It was just bizarre. It's like literally we had so many good points and it just felt like nothing in our direction. So in a match like that, it doesn't truly feel like a blowout. So it feels like, hey, like a small adjustment here or there can all of a sudden really change, a whole lot of things there too. And Jared, for example, was making the comments just like, man, those guys are, I'm like, what should we have tried even different? Cause I'm like, we tried a couple of different things in there, made a couple small adjustments, but he's just like, man, it was just really sharp from them. Usually when playing pretty aggressive, there's bound to be more errors in there as well. But if you look at the percentages of that match, I think you'd find that there was a whole lot of points won off of, a combination of different shots from stuff volleys or spin shots, rollers, FY, whatever, just any of these kind of shots that won them points, and not many that actually lost them points outright. So it's like the points lost, we had to earn many times, and it's just hard to do that over and over again with the team that also has the offense that they do. And it was like, shoot, all the credit to them. They played great.
Yeah. So as much fun as that is to watch for spectators, and just watching them, people with amazing ability play the same game, which obviously looks a lot different when you see people that good playing it. What are some of the things that you think that, again, the club player can take away from watching something like that? Like one of the things that I guess I noticed, especially in your matches, Johan's matches, Steven's matches, is guys hitting those big balls, content to just, if you don't have a great opportunity to volley it, let it go past you. It's been hard enough to get it off the back screen and just live to fight another day, where I think inherently most club players, like, I got to volley everything, even if I can't touch it. And so I think that was, one of the things that was interesting to me. But what do you think people could take away from watching high level matches like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say there's a couple things that maybe are like fundamental things that you could kind of take from it. I think as far as like, you know, the importance of quality lobbing and setting yourself up or setting your partner up and remembering that you're a team, right? It's so many times when you see that, hey, someone's in trouble on the screen, someone's getting kind of, you know, I call it the spin cycle, right? It's just like you're getting a few of these going to your corner. You're struggling, you know, what do you do to get out of there? So a lot of times if you can lob down the line, you can kind of get that ball maybe going away from you. So there's reasons to do it defensively and also reasons to do it offensively, to say like, hey, if I hit that lob, this may set up my partner or might set up myself, you know, for the next ball. So lobbing with intent, that'd be like one thing. I think also tempo control. You know, you end up looking at a lot of these, you know, any of these top players, all of them are great. You know, you look at, does anyone look really stressed or rushed when they're playing points? Most of the time, no. And if they are, it's usually because the other team's kind of applying that pressure really, really well. But it's hard to kind of sustain that through the whole match. Overall, usually they're going to find a way to, you know, if it's going too fast, they're going to find a way to slow it down. If it's going too slow, they find a way to speed it up a little bit. So, you know, tempo control, I think is an important thing, you know, and kind of playing the point, trying to find a way to play the point on your terms. As far as, you know, when we're talking about like a club player, many times they don't, you know, let that ball go through and play a ball off the screen, off of a tough returner, you know, and maybe are too committed to like serving and volleying every single time. I see that plenty of times as well. I'd say, you know, if you are a player who maybe came from tennis and your volleys are much stronger, let's say, than your screening, right? And you don't dig the ball out as well. Maybe that is the case. Maybe you should be serving and volleying and finding solutions to stay up at net, right? Play Aussie, change formations, change service locations, do all those things first. If you're someone who's totally comfortable being at the baseline, you're like, hey, me and my partner have, you know, big weapons from the baseline. I totally don't mind digging balls from the screen. It's like, hey, there's no sense in taking a shoelace volley regularly by any means, you know, instead of just going back and playing from the baseline, you know, especially in the temperatures we were playing in that one. I think that's another thing that a lot of times, you know, a lot of club players don't adjust much to is like even just the temperatures, right? You're going to see a lot more of people letting the return go when it's warmer. Temperatures out there in Detroit this week were what? They're between 30 and 40, right? For the most part. And that's warm enough that things are coming off the screen pretty good. Well, and so, you know, everyone's pretty comfortable letting balls go off the screen there. You know, once it's going maybe sub 20 or lower, that's where people might be like, all right, maybe fighting a little bit more to volley that ball or pick off the return off the middle to keep the net, right? It becomes a little bit more important. Yeah.
You talked about some of it a little bit, but it was interesting looking at some of the scores from both men and women this weekend. You see sets that were 6-1 and then the team would go ahead and lose the next set, right? So they win 6-1 and then lose the next two, sometimes not even close. Obviously, there's some momentum turns at some point in some of those matches, and maybe a lot of matches. What do you do when you're on the wrong side of that, when momentum's not going your way? What kind of things do you think are good to do to try to turn that around?
Marek, we just had you come on the show just to coach us tonight. That's it. We're not even gonna release this episode. Truly, it's just for Noah and I's coaching for our own play. That's all we're doing.
That's right.
So
That's right.
please continue.
It's a private video lesson.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the question though, right? Because the thing is, you find so much of that. You find so much of the flip flopping. It's amazing in paddle how much of that you truly see. Like you these flip flop sets, or like, you know, even you know, just take last tournament with Jared and I. We ended up we're playing Hughes and Powers in the semis. We were up 4-1 in the third, but we lost the next 5 games. When we didn't feel like we actually played it poorly. It wasn't like oh man, we just kind of just, you know, went off for 5 games or something. It was just like, no, that's the nature of paddle. And like, once again, close games, a lot of great points, and just the momentum just barely shifted the other way, and that's enough in paddle sometimes to get a streak of games going. I don't know if I've seen any other sport where like streaks of games happen more often, you know, or like these like periods of like hot periods of like just rolling the other team in a sense, even though it's not necessarily like dominating them. It's just sort of like, hey, you just win 5 games in a row because you just played it just that little bit better, that 2% better, or something like that. But that's sometimes win 5 games in a row, you know?
Yep.
So that's why there's a big difference between some, you get some teams who you beat 6-1, one set that you win 6-1 versus another one could be totally different. They could have a totally different feel. I'd say as far as to adjust there, it's like if you were, let's say you won a first set 7-5 and you lost the next one 6-1, and now one thing I think in paddle is never to get too spooked with that stuff, because that's the nature of paddle. It's like I think after you play it enough times, you realize that happens all the time, and many times you'll be on the receiving the positive end, whatever you want to call it, the receiving end of it, where you're going to be the one that's actually on, flipping the score, and now you have the advantage. It's you make your little adjustments if you can. If you think that, hey, there's actually something that I could adjust here that actually, switch the score a little bit or switch the dynamic of the points a little bit, great, do it. Sometimes it's just like, hey, we've actually played the points perfectly and they just keep executing on everything right now. I think it's going to be really hard for them to keep that up. I think if we just keep doing what we're doing, eventually we're going to find the errors or expose them the way we intended, and you just keep going with it. So I think you just got to make sure that you don't stress about it. Don't press, right? I think that's one thing that happens to some people who they win a first set and then they lose the next one 6-2, and then all of a sudden the third one can be 6-0 because they just started pressing, thinking something amazing.
I'm so glad you said that. I had a partner. You probably know Bob Wellstein. We've talked. I played a number of years with Bob, Series 1 in Chicago, and when Bob and I first started playing together, we'd win a first set, and then my mind would go walkabout, and we'd probably lose the second. And after 2 or 3 matches of that, Bob just straight up mean to me. He'd be like, "What the fuck, Bash? Get your feet moving. Get the ball in." He just straight up mean, and he was so mean that he'd keep me focused those first 3 or 4 games of the second set, and we were so successful. But if we were mic'd up and people could hear the things he was saying to me, just nasty, just verbally abusive, and it's not for everyone, but I loved it. It was so good for me to have someone not go, "Oh, Ben, just keep swinging. Oh, it's okay. Don't do that." Because I'd have blown the next 2 sets 0-0. I needed someone who was like, "Hey, you're an idiot. Move your feet. Get your head in," just straight up mean. And but those momentum swings can happen so quickly if you shut off for a second. And
it can, and that's why if you blink and paddle, that's all of a sudden 3 games right there. So it's which on the receiving area, on the other side of that, flip side of that is you're never out of it. You're down 5-2 in a set, you're never out of it, right? And so just kind of remembering that, just for all the club players and everything, it's just like, that's not really a huge deal. It's like you always have a chance to kind of get yourself back on there pretty quickly, and amazingly, if you get yourself to back to 5-4 or something, you never know what happens from there, right? Then it's like you have a little momentum going your way, and just that little added pressure to your opponents, like that messes with people, Yeah. So
I got to tell you, I played the guy that introduced you to paddle on Thursday night. I played Dan McGuire.
D-Mac.
And we were D-Mac, actually the inventor of the underhand serve.
Yeah.
Right. But we were up 6-0, 5-0 against him, and he is still in that corner, like biting his lip, digging balls out. And you're like, dude, if we stop concentrating, he will fight for the next 4 hours to stay out here. I'm like, I just need to close this out now, because I can see the food getting delivered and everyone's drinking beer. I was like, we need to be done, because he would fight, and if you let him get 1-2 games, he'll stay out there all night. Yeah,
he thrives in that scenario, and he'll win 1 game with some comment, and he'll eat you alive with that stuff. It's awesome.
Yeah, I spoke to him after it, and he goes, we were baiting you into trying to FYM me and go for some stuff. I go, I knew it. I knew you wanted me to start swinging for the fences. And I go, I didn't take the bait. And he goes, I know. He goes, I was actually really proud of you. You didn't try and hit me at all. And you stayed very calm. He's like, yeah, he gave me some compliments. I like Dan McGuire. He's a quirky fucker, but I like him. He's funny.
Love him. I don't know if we had him. We had BJ Rhino, Craig Wilson. We had a group of guys. I played with them all the time in my first summer in Chicago, and D-Mac is hilarious with it. I mean, just the strategy stuff that he's talking about, just his view on the game and everything side of it. I love it. Just the banter back and forth too when playing. He just anytime you lose a point against him, he's not shy to go ahead and make you feel the pain.
Oh yeah. He was telling me he loves to play Mike Marino, and he stands inside the baseline, like dancing around trying to get Marino to just FYM him. And he's like, Marino just gets so angry and just keeps going after him. I was like, that's awesome. Yeah, he's one of a kind. Hey, while we're on the coaching, I wanted to touch on one more thing while Noah and I have got this free lesson going on. I promise you we will release it. Where were we? We were at Birchwood the other day, and I saw you in passing because you were going on to play a real paddle match, and I just finished mine. And you're like, "Hey, how's it going?" I go, "I hate paddle. I really." And coming from someone that does a podcast on paddle and runs a paddle program, and like I have struggled with playing for about a year now, where I haven't enjoyed it. I've hated it, and I've tried to power through it. And I'm like, if any point goes over 8 shots, I'm like, this needs to end. I don't want to be out here. And you're like, I've been there, and I had to go. I think I had to finish my match, and you were going out to play, and we never finished the conversation. I was like, oh, next time Marek and I see each other, and I thought, well,
next time I have him on the podcast, I'm going to ask that question.
Well, no, let's talk about it, because I cannot be the only person playing paddle that's like, I love it, but I hate it with a passion. I'm like, I really want to play every Thursday. I want to do some tournaments, but I was miserable. I hated it. And I was like, I've got to work out a way to get through this. And I'm like, there has to be more than just me who has this feeling. And I was like, Marek's a super calm, super smart, well-spoken guy. Maybe he can teach the masses better than I can. So what are your thoughts? Help me, Marek. I need help.
That's a tough one, but I think everyone, if you play long enough, I think everyone probably experiences a certain degree of that, right? At some point in their career, because it's like, you finally probably get a certain style of play that becomes kind of your style, whether it's, hey, I love to play, D-Max style, and I play a little slower. I like kind of like doing probing stuff, kind of getting my opponent to go ahead and overplay a shot or something. And I don't mind long matches or something. Or you might play a super aggressive way and want to play quick points, dynamic points, and like using athleticism in there. And it's like you just basically figure out your own style, something that you like. But I mean, if you're playing, players of a similar level, what's their job is to hopefully get you out of playing your favorite style of play, right? And it's that's the challenge. At least if they're doing their job right, that's hopefully what they're doing. Otherwise, it's going to be a quick match, right? And so it's just like it's a really tough thing in paddle to go ahead and impose your game on other people easily. It's like, even if you are the most athletic physical specimen out there, and you just, you're super aggressive, have all the offense, it really doesn't matter that much if you have 2 players on the other side willing to go ahead and basically just ruin that for you.
Right.
Like, no, we want to make your life miserable, and they will. And it's amazing how in the game in paddle you can't totally just dominate a match just solo on your own. And that's kind of the beauty of it too, though, right? It's the ability to go ahead and again, you're never out of it. You can always figure out a solution in there. There's always something, it's just a matter of time of figuring something out, and realizing that, hey, there's options, there's different ways to go ahead and play it. But I think the thing is as far as, enjoying it and finding a way to kind of grind through those times where you're playing matches that you don't necessarily love the style of play or the tempo of the play or something. I think that's like, for me in my own game, I'm like, all right, obviously I'm probably significantly more on the offensive side, right? I'm not necessarily making something a 3-hour match when I don't have to, but if it goes that way, I could play it. But I think that's, for me, I'm always trying to learn, new things in my game to go ahead and find a way to go ahead and be a little bit more aggressive and always learning new options in there, adding a different weapon in the game, finding some ways to go ahead and continue that and kind of keep myself, in a constant growth mode. And that kind of makes it fun for me too, so for me, that keeps it interesting. It keeps it, a little more fresh and dynamic that way. I think it's important. There's like a balance to it of like, hey, I know this may be the way to win, but it's also killing my insides, and killing my soul. That's probably not the right way to play that match. You got to find a way, I think, that makes you happy and enjoying. Because I think that's part of it, right? You got to be able to go ahead and enjoy yourself out there and have fun while you're competing and trust, hey, my style of play, if I just get a little bit better at it, make a couple tweaks. But I would say probably not playing completely opposite of your normal style,
Right.
Yeah.
So you're saying my response of F this, I hate this game, I shouldn't do it, is going to make me better. I've got to ride the wave. I'm hoping I'm at like the bottom now, and I'm kind of working my way back up. Like doing something's going to make you better.
I took away that you were playing the wrong opponents for the last year. That was the problem.
I
played a different style.
Yeah. They're just smarter than me and worked out. Ben doesn't want to be out here for that long. Let's keep him out here. Yeah. Before we get to rapid fire, I've got one more quick question for you, Marek.
Mm-hmm.
Playing Series 3 with Jay Waldenberg, is this the highlight of your career?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Figured it was. Okay. Just touching on it. It's definitely been
an absolute treat. We have had some awesome matches this season with it as well. It's their minds just frying over on the other end when they start seeing Jay just scrambling for shots, picking out everything, and you can just see them going nuts over there, and it just brings a good old smile to my face.
Yeah.
There's people in Connecticut who listen to our show that are never going to see Jay Waldenberg, that they hear his name every other show, and they're going to go. They feel like they're kindred spirits now because they know him so well now.
So Marek, I got to tell you, like 5-second story real quick. We had a match at the club the other week, and Jay was there, and the opponents were already there, and they're like, "Oh, we're playing court 1 tonight. Who are we playing?" I go, "Oh, you got Jay Waldenberg." And they're like, "Oh, son of a bitch." And they go, "Who's his partner?" I go, "Oh, Marek Czerwinski." And they're like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Like, geez, what do we choose? We got 9 hours out with picking on Jay, or we can hit it to Marek and just get destroyed. They're like, these are two of the worst choices we could have. I believe they actually chose to hit the ball to you because I think they were on and off in about 22 minutes that match. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they were like, "We're just gonna go to Marek and get to the food and pizza."
I appreciate that. That's always when they make that decision.
I don't think your beautiful white Xenon jacket even came off that night. Like, you came in looking as good and classy as you did. You came off the court looking the exact same. It was impressive. Yeah. But, all right. Let's rapid fire him. Go, Noah.
Let's get you out of here. Okay. Get to know Marek a little better. Who's your favorite? Was or is your favorite sporting idol?
I always liked Pete Sampras. Yep, he was definitely one of my favorites for sure. Watching him, hence also in the background there, I got my Wimbledon sign on my back. That's back in my office, and that's.
Can you give everyone a show that's watching on video? This will be a reason to watch it on YouTube.
Yeah, my office right there, a little faux grass on the back wall, and then we got a bunch of wooden rackets there that eventually are going to get hung up. But I love Wimby, and that was always my favorite tournament growing up. So I ended up having a bunch of classic rackets, Borg, McEnroe, Laver, different sticks there, classic ones, and that'll be hung up soon.
That's excellent. Favorite city?
Favorite city? Ooh, that's a tough one.
Grosse Pointe.
Yeah. I lived in France for a little while near Paris, and actors. That's definitely one of my favorites for sure.
All right. Seeing as England just lost to France in the World Cup, can you come up with a different answer? As opposed to, we're going to,
What event was that?
Well, World Cup doesn't exist anymore. England are out. So,
Yeah. Well,
okay. Well, Paris.
I didn't know it existed before.
Well, thanks.
All right. When coaching, something that drives you nuts.
What? Say it again.
When you're coaching, something that drives you nuts.
Ooh, something that drives me nuts. That's a good question. I would say maybe, overall I'm pretty patient with people, but I'd say people who think they have all the answers and are basically coaching me when I'm out there. So I find that pretty interesting. I'm quite confused. I'm like, should I be paying you for the lesson, or boggles my mind on those ones. I'm always just what I'm doing out.
Sounds like a recurring theme.
The common answer, right, is I know. No, you don't know. You really don't. Yeah.
Favorite band?
Ooh, that's a good one too. I'd say so I'm not a huge like concert goer or anything, but there's a couple bands I've seen in concert. I think Mumford and Sons. That's one of my favorites for sure. I'm a Christian as well. I like Hillsong United. Great Christian band. And then I'd say the Lumineers.
Ooh, good band.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm gonna look up the middle one. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
How about favorite TV show or movie?
Ooh, right now, TV show. I love Ted Lasso.
So good.
It's so good. It's
so
good. Actually, I have a Kent jersey that I got for Christmas last year.
Do you really?
I do.
Oh, that's awesome.
All right, home stretch. Last two questions. Favorite meal?
Yeah, any Polish food, any traditional Polish food, I love it.
I was gonna say pierogi.
I'm a big soup guy. John, my boss, loves to make fun of me on that one. I think every time we ordered soup, so I what next time I have lunch with them, I'm just gonna go ahead and order soup with a side of soup.
Love it. All right. The big one we got it. I think we have to always end up with this one, but favorite superhero.
Yeah, oh, come on. There was one more question in there. You forgot to ask.
All right, hold on.
All right, Marek.
Forget the favorite superhero. Go ahead, Ben.
No. We'll go to the superhero to finish, but I've got one other question for you. One player you can FYM in the game. Who is it? Who are you going after with your one player?
Ooh, that's a good one. I don't know.
It's my favorite.
I feel like I've gotten tagged a few times in there by Johan. I'd like to finally once get him back. Like just once would be fine, right? Kind of you in there, on the hip and the back, the leg, whatever. I'm like, all right, at one point, could I just get one back?
So if you're doing it against Johan, are you doing it like when you're match point up? So like it's not coming back again in that match?
Nothing.
You don't do it in the first or second game because you're like, oh my God, we got another hour and a half of this. Yeah.
All right. Not favorite superhero. Final question.
Yep. Favorite superhero? I think I'm going Iron Man.
Good choice.
Yeah, I became a fan definitely since that first movie came out there. That was good. I don't know. He wasn't my favorite growing up. Growing up, it was Wolverine.
Ooh.
That's a good call too.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. If your kids got into, they're not old enough yet. They're not watching it.
All the Marvel characters. We got one of my
love it.
Loves like Black Panther and Iron Man. They one of them who's all about Spider-Man. So I think we cover like the whole gamut.
Oh, dude, nothing. I get more excited. My kids are like, oh, let's go watch the new Black Panther movie. I'm like, oh, we're in. I'm going. I've just got an excuse for someone to go with me. Yeah.
We got to get somebody who's older on the podcast and ask them that question. Maybe we'll get like a Wonder Twins or something like that. Get a good superhero in there.
Wonder Twins?
Yeah, no, it's the joke. Wonder Twins were a superhero, but they were nobody would name them. But yeah, no, look them up. Yeah. Look them up on YouTube. It was hysterically funny to watch then and probably now too. So,
He-Man? Would you like someone to say He-Man?
No, that's kind of creepy, with the cat and all that. That was weird. That was disturbing. Yeah, no, the new ones are safer. I like that. All right, hey, thanks so much for spending your Sunday night with us, especially after a long weekend. We appreciate it, and we appreciate your wife being letting us have you for a little over a half hour tonight when you just got home too. So thanks so much, and we certainly look forward to seeing a lot more of you around this year.
For sure. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it so much. This is
Thanks,
awesome.
sir.
Having me.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mark. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, my turn. Just slowed down for a second. My bad. I was looking at my son's Lego. You can put this into it. It's okay. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening today. Marek is just the best dude. He's literally played a tournament all weekend, got home from Detroit. I was texting him. He's like, do you mind if I do dinner with my children? I'm like, oh, dude, of course, do dinner with your children. We'll work around your schedule. So he was nice enough to come spend a little time and coach Noah and I for about an hour there. But again, if you listen to my voice, we appreciate you listening till the end. I'm Ben. He's Noah. We're out of here.